קהל קדוש, בוקר אור, שבוע טוב, בקיאים בהלכה day 54. We are on page 168, הלכה tet. Okay? If the congregation recited Arvit prayers, זאת אומרת, התפללו ערבית, and by the time they completed the silent עמידה, there was no longer a minyan anymore. So again, מחלוקת ספרדים אשכנזים, האם אפשר להגיד קדיש תתקבל? According to Ashkenazim, they can answer תתקבל. But not according to Sephardic Jews, because since the Kaddish תתקבל זה חוזר על מה שהיה, ברגע שיצא חלק מהמניין, that means the fact that part of the minyan left, now you don't have 10. If you don't have 10, you can't do Kaddish תתקבל. But even according to the Ashkenazic practice, if the congregation lost a minyan before the silent Amidah, so you can't even do the Kaddish Titkabal, even though there was a minyan present at the beginning of Kriyat Shema. The Kaddish has no connection to the part of those prayers. So those tefillot. So to merit, Lafi Ashkenazim, if they started the Amidah with 10 and then 2 left or 3 left, or before, as long as they have 6 left over, so they're allowed to do Kaddish Titkabal. According to Sfaradim, no. Next, this is going to be 316, Lamata. Yeah, 316 says, Rav Akiva Eger pointed out that there's no cantor's repetition during Arvit, meaning en chazarat hashatz be'arvit. But the halacha still is that as long as there was a minyan present when they began the silent Amidah, he still could say Kaddish Titkabal. This being the case, he asks, why is it that Shachrit and Mincha, he may cite Kaddish only if there's a minyan for the chazarah? The Kaddish Titkabal applies to the silent Amidah just as much as it applies to the chazarah, he argued. But another view that resolved the question, explaining that there's a fundamental difference between Arvit and other prayers. Our sages required the Chazarat HaShatz on Shachrit and Mincha, the Kaddish of Titkabal is connected to the Chazarah and not to the silent Amidah. Therefore, the Rama agreed that if the congregation was left with a minyan before the cantor had the chance to repeat the Chazarah, he cannot do Kaddish Titkabal because they don't require a Chazarah, right, for Arvit. The Kaddish is connected to the silent Amidah. זאת אומרת ככה, קדיש תתקבל בשחרית ומנחה בגלל שיש חזרת השץ, הקדיש תתקבל is שייך to the חזרת השץ. But in Arvit, that there's no חזרת השץ, קדיש תתקבל זה שייך לעמידה בלחש. You understood? That's another Yehuda. It goes on the עמידה בלחש. Okay? This ruling is cited by the Mishnah Berurah, the Biur Halacha. According to the Pri Megadim, the Chazan may say the Kaddish Titkabal after Shachrit, as long as there was a minyan present when they began the silent Amidah. But according to the Chayei Adam, he says no. Right? If they lost before the prayers, including Arvit, the cantor may not recite the Kaddish Titkabal. This entire debate is pertinent to Ashkenazi Jews only, because Sephardic Jews obviously go according to Maran, ve'en ma la'asot. You know, doesn't work. Halacha Yod. Okay? According to Ashkenazic practice, if there was a minyan present when the congregation began Arvit, the Chazan may say the half Kaddish precedes the silent Amidah. This is halacha even if the congregation lost a minyan immediately after Barechu, because the half Kaddish is connected to the Shema and its blessings, not to the Amidah. So to merit, התחילו 10. They start ברכו. קריאת שמע, פתאום 2 יצאו. יצאו. So now what do? You're allowed to say the silent, you're allowed to say the Kaddish before Amidah, according to Ashkenazim. Because the Kaddish before Amidah of Arvit is שייך לברachot של קריאת שמע. So therefore, so they're allowed to do it. As stated in the previous halacha, the Chazan may not say the Kaddish Titkabal in this case. According to the practice of Sephardic Jews, he can't even do that Kaddish as well. Right? Now it says, according to Ashkenazic Jews, if the minyan was present in the congregation when we began with Arvit, so the Chazan could say half Kaddish. This is halacha even if they lost it right after Baruchu. The half Kaddish is connected to Shema. As stated in the previous halacha, the Chazan may not recite the Kaddish Titkabal in this case, but according to Sephardic Jews, anyway they can do it. Halacha Yud Aleph. Kaddish after Yishtabach. If the congregation began Yishtabach with a minyan, but they lost the minyan right before the half Kaddish, he can't say the half Kaddish. זאת אומרת, הם יצאו לפני, זאת אומרת, באמצע ישתבח יש מניין. אבל בשביל הקדיש המניין, המניין, זהו לפי ספרדים. This is halacha also according to Ashkenazic Jews as well. Right? Likewise, if the congregation recited the section of Korbanot and then lost the minyan right by Hodu, again they cannot say it, the Kaddish there. So 317, the Pri Megadim suggested the possibility that the half Kaddish might be connected to the preceding Yishtabach of Shachrit and to the Ashrei and Mincha, permitting the cantor to recite it is although there's no longer full minyan. He did not come to a conclusion. The Eliyah Rabbah ruled that he may recite the Kaddish, but the Maimon Mordechai says no. And that's the ruling of the Ben Ish Chai and the Kaf HaChaim. 12, Halacha Yud Bet. Okay, 12. If the congregation lost a minyan while they were reciting the final prayer of Elenu L'Shabeach, they may not say the Kaddish afterwards. So for Moroccans or Ashkenazim that they say Kaddish afterwards, you can do it. Likewise, he says, if a group of people studied Torah together, but some people went out before the session was over, and now there's no, so that they can't say a Kaddish now, and this even applies to Ashkenazim. So the men לא יכולים להגיד, תשמע, היה לנו 10 ועכשיו יצאו. לא, HaKadish al Yisrael, it's a new entity. You don't have to do the Kaddish al Yisrael. So now that you're doing it, you need 10. Okay? Halacha Yud Gimel. If the congregation completed the blessing of Yishtabach and he began the half Kaddish, and then some people went out, and there's no longer a minyan, so the Chazan may continue saying the Kaddish, again, because you're in the middle of the Kaddish. Some Pilskim rule that he may not even complete the Kaddish, but he may only recite Baruchu after the half Kaddish, since the Kaddish and Baruchu are connected. Nevertheless, the Halacha follows the Poskim rule that they may not recite Baruchu because the Kaddish is an independent prayer, and Baruchu is the beginning of the next section. So incredible. Meaning Baruchu zelo kashur la Kaddish, and therefore you could finish the Kaddish, but you can't say the Baruchu. Okay? Next one. 14, Yudalim. As stated above, when someone leaves the congregation and as a result there's no longer minyan, those who remain are allowed to finish the section of the tefillah, right, that they began while there was a minyan. Nevertheless, it is sinful to leave the congregation, and the Talmud says that somebody that does that is those Hashem yichlu, those that abandon Hashem will perish, which means that it's permissible to leave if one determines that there will still be a minyan present. Meaning, אם אתה יוצא ואתה כבר יודע שעדיין יהיה מניין, אז מותר לך לצאת. But if you know you're leaving them without a minyan, you're not allowed to leave. Because that means you're causing them to leave without a minyan. So it's a problem. 318. The Mishnah Brura explained that this curse applies only to someone who leaves the congregation while they're in the middle of the sacred prayer, as for example, Chazarat HaShatz, forcing them to continue without a minyan. The halacha requires him to remain there until he finishes the entire Chazarah. Okay? Or according to Ashkenazim, the Kaddish Kabal. Once the congregation has completed the Chazarat HaShatz, it's permissible for anyone to leave, even though he prevents the others from saying the other Kaddishim. Likewise, if someone was the 10th person during the half Kaddish, and Baruchu al Shachrit, he may leave after that, even though you're going to stop him from doing the Chazarat HaShatz. Meaning, because at least you let them finish what they were doing. You understand? Okay, so go. But it has to be after something that they were doing. So now he says, right, each person has no obligation to participate in the prayers. The Mishabra added that it's permissible for someone to leave the congregation only if he's already fulfilled his daily requirement to participate in the prayers he will now miss. This means that he's already heard Kaddish, Kedusha, Chazarat HaShatz, and Baruchu in an early minyan. But if he's not done so, he's obligated to do that until he has his own obligations as well. In the Yur Lecha, the author added that it is never permissible to walk out during Kedusha. Meaning during Kedusha, you could never walk out. Okay, but even if it's going to be the other things, you could only leave if you already did it. So the minute you already heard Kriyat Torah, you already heard Chazarat HaShatz, you already heard, so then you're going to leave, okay, fine. But if you didn't hear it, anyways, you have to stay for the finishing of that halacha.